What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We are a podcast that focuses on the strategies inside of the game of Overwatch. We learn through trial and error in the lab, and even if things get a little bit crazy and blow up sometimes, we'll brew up some team compositions, stir up some tips to play better, and hopefully equip you, the listeners, with the instruments you need to gain that strategic edge. I am your host, Andres Gomez, and today I am taking the reins of the podcast since Rob unfortunately was not able to be here because of his job. He had to go on a job trip. And fortunately, I have my good friend Deathblow over here helping me do all of the co-hosting and the show. So I'm not alone. You won't be listening to just me today. So it's okay, guys. Don't panic. What's up, Deathblow? Welcome to the show.
Not too much, man. I'm hoping that we can make it so that way by the end of the show, people aren't wishing it was just you. So hopefully I can live up to the standards that Rob puts out every week, which won't be easy. But I mean, is he really out for the work, or is he just still in shock and can't speak after reading the patch notes? I think that's the real question.
That's really what happened. He read the patch notes and he's still recovering from the immediate shock that this new Mercy changes entail. But yeah, so he told me he was to work, so I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Seems like an honest guy. We can take his word for it.
For sure. Really quick before we get into all of these changes that are coming to the game, because today we have a lot of changes coming from the PTR. We have some stuff for the new season. I know that last episode we talked about how the new season or the end of the season had been announced, with the new one being announced super close. And not many things were changing from season to season. Some people were disappointed. Not to worry, we got those coming. But real quick, remember, on September 1st, we have our game night. If you want to participate in the game night, make sure to join our Discord. It'll be happening on September the 1st. So in about 7 days. Yeah, about a week. It'll be a Friday, and we usually play the entire day. I usually join around 6 p.m. Eastern and play the entire night. It's really fun. We'll be trying out different modes and 6 versus 6, and we'll do a bunch of teams depending on who shows up. Also, shout out to our friends from Omnic Meta. They just put out their new the new report out this week. It came out on August 22nd, so it's fresh out of the oven. I'm going to read you a little script from Omnic Meta itself. It says, "This report is all about Doomfist and his high pick rate completely shaking up the meta. Doomfist has the highest debut of any hero since Overwatch came out and has made an immediate impact and claimed more than 25% usage across all tiers, putting him as one of the most popular DPS heroes in the game. I definitely encourage you guys to check out the entire review. It's called Patch 1.3 Hero Change Analysis, where he goes over all of the new meta changes. We've seen a big increase in Saryas, as well as a lot of DPS heroes are being picked. I think that right now there are a lot of options. A lot of them seem very appealing, and you can make them work a lot. What do you think about this? Have you noticed a lot of DPSs in your games? I mean, more than usual.
Yeah, I mean, things have definitely been a little crazy. I've been a little light on comp lately myself, just because I've been trialing for new teams and things like that recently. So I haven't played a ton of competitive mode myself, but from what I've seen, and even in scrims, he's definitely making a high impact. You can see it in the tournament scene as well. And his presence there shakes things up quite a bit. He's brought some Zarya and Reinhardt compositions back into play at the tournament scene, and he also has brought McCree kind of back into things a little bit, right? Like, because McCree seems to make a pretty good pairing with him, since he has a lot of range and can do some good damage from farther away.
I guess him too. You could argue that.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting so far. He's definitely better than I thought, right? When I was playing with him initially, I thought he was very easy to counter, and I guess that's true, but you're also able to do this thing where you just go all in to support him with your team compositions, and that makes a big difference as well. And that makes it much more difficult to counter him from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, and I think it's taken a little bit, but people have definitely gotten the hang of the mobility of the hero, and sometimes not going all in, but he's a great initiator, right? Like, you go in with your fist, and you can sometimes get a kill outright, like right there and there, if you hit somebody against the wall. And if you don't, it's easy for you to just leap into the air and kind of like go back into cover. And like you said, especially if you have teammates in your team, like Zarya, for example, her shield is just like a lifesaver. And it synergizes so well with him, which we've seen with the in the meta report is obvious. Zarya, the increase in pick rate for Zarya has increased dramatically in almost all tiers. If you guys want to check out the whole report, go to omnicmeta.com, but you can see it over there. And I think you were right. Zarya, McCree, Reinhardt, you're seeing a lot of those a lot more often. And I think that Doomfist has a little bit to do with this little shakeup over here.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I'll say about him is he can be a pretty good initiator, but I do think he's best hanging back on defense and responding and peeling almost exclusively, right? Because he's different than heroes like Genji, even though there's a lot of, and I've made a lot of comparisons on our podcast about, how I can't play him because I'm just so bad at Genji for the same reasons that I'm so bad at him. And I just lose track of people when they're in melee range and right in front of me, right? Like my tracking just becomes really, really bad. Like I'm a Zen main, you can imagine there's not a hero that stands farther back, farther away from the fight.
Yeah.
How weird that is to then all of a sudden be playing Genji and have, the smallest of character fill up your entire screen. It's very disorienting. So, but yeah, he's been really strong on defense because you really kind of have this problem with him where you can either just deal absurd amounts of damage and kill anything you want to very quickly, or be very mobile, because the abilities don't stack up. Like there's no dash reset, so you don't get to kill somebody and then move again. It's you jump, you do your punch, which charges you forward, and then that's down for a long time. And you can get vertical with another ability, but you can't get far away. And it's not a guarantee that you use verticality as an escape route on all points.
No, I agree. You definitely have to play around your cooldowns because you are quite vulnerable if you haven't gained any of your shields and you're in the middle of the enemy team and don't have any way to get out. But he is doing good. A lot of people have expressed issues about him. I think that Blizzard has already responded and they're already trying out some changes in the PTR. He's gotten a couple of nerfs. Nothing is super concrete, so we won't be going over those as much as we'll be going over the next few things. The first thing I want to get into is the new competitive season changes. Last episode, we said that so far, there were no announcement about these changes. And after the developer update from Jeff, like detailing all of the Mercy changes and stuff, this came out in a blue post on the forums, addressing the new changes to the season. Two main things that are about to happen. One, players in Silver, Gold, Platinum, and Diamond can now drop into lower skill tiers. So this is not going to be immediate. It's not, don't panic. But basically how it's going to work is if you're in Diamond, for example, and you lose a game and you technically fall out of Diamond, you become like 2993, or just to put a number out there, you have to lose another 4 games. If you lose a total of 5 games under the threshold, you will be demoted to the tier below. So they still give you a chance. It's not like as soon as you reach Diamond, you have to panic, because if you lose the next game, you'll fall out of your preciously earned medal. No. It's okay. But I think overall this is a good change. What do you think?
I like it. I have a love-hate relationship with this change. It's not high impact, so it's whatever for the most part. It doesn't change a whole lot from actual playing standpoint. But I do think there's this problem where there's a lot of, and I'm sure you guys have touched on it, there's a lot of throwing going on in this meta right now. A lot of people will tank their SRs, and there's been problems with that. And this makes it harder to see that, right? Because now, or before, I can be like, okay, I'm in this bronze game and you have a diamond icon, and that screams to me. So I don't know, but it's good in the sense that it doesn't change the way that the fact that you have to play this guy, right? So I'd rather not have my attention drawn to that there's potentially a Smurf in the game or a skill disparity here, because a lot of times you can beat that just by not knowing, going out there and doing your thing. But if you know, the same thing what happens if you ever 6-stack in competitive, you have people whining and complain instantly. Oh, great, what matchmaking? It's we're 3 groups of 2, and then they just roll out these meme comps and don't really do anything productive because they've already given up. So to hide that information is nice. Like I don't give up or react poorly to things like that, but I don't want my teammates to at the same time. So
Right. Yeah, I agree to that with some degree. I do think that sometimes the psychology of thinking that you're playing against a better player can make you play worse against that
Hmm.
player just because you think that he is better than you. Well, if you think you're on equal terms, you are actually more confident about your moves, and you might be, more on equal terms with that person. But more to that, like I think this change speaks to the engagement, right? Like I think they're trying to keep people engaged with their rank in some sort of way, because I think there is a component of competitive that when people get to, for example, diamond or they reach platinum, and that's kind of like their season high so far. There's this tendency of certain people to stop playing competitive, because they don't want to lose the rank, or they feel they achieve the highest that they're gonna get for the season, so they kind of leave it at that. And I think that with this change, at least it encourages people to not only make it to a certain threshold, but kind of like play at that threshold and maybe keep advancing just a little bit to keep playing at that level. That's kind of how I see it. Obviously, it's gonna affect people differently. Some people are gonna want it, some people are not gonna want it. It is gonna motivate some people, not everyone. It'll motivate me to try to stay at that, because I know it happens with diamond and master, right? Like once you get to
Yeah.
master, you wanna keep it, right? You don't wanna fall back to diamond, and if you fall back to diamond, you're like, no, I want to
Right.
get back there. So
And
it has
I
that
was
effect on
actually,
me.
yeah, I was actually going to say that too. As a couple of Masters players here, if we're going to be subject to that particular problem, I'm glad everybody is.
There you go. Glass half full.
Right.
Um, All right, the second change that is coming over here, and the more important one that I think that a lot of people have been asking for, is they've made some adjustments to how skill rating is calculated after a win, loss, whatever you get. Basically, this speaks to the problem we've been having with some people abusing the competitive system, using certain heroes that have lower win percentages to raise their SR. So we know about like the Mercy problem, or about the one trick problem where people will only play Sombra, for example, or will only play Junkrat. Heroes that overall have lower win ratios. So that this means that if they win, they gain more SR, and if they lose, they gain less. They lose less SR than certain other heroes. I think they're trying to normalize this so people don't just try to abuse the system in order to climb up the ranks. And I think this is super important because it'll make your decision on picking a hero based on hopefully what your team best needs, and not what is gonna gain you or lose you the most or least amount of SR. What do you think about this change, man?
I'm not very positive of all the particulars, but I'm very aware of the problems you said. I think the one that really stands out is Sombra. She was, I've seen videos on YouTube and things like that talking about how she's probably the best hero to play on ladder because you have that issue with it where your stats compared to other people, just the way the average is calculated kind of leads to you actually gaining more SR than the average hero. So I think it's great to normalize that, but I'm not very, very confident in what the particulars are on all of them. So this is one of those areas where I trust Blizzard, right? Like I just kind of rely on them to handle everything under the hood and get it right. And as long as they're making iterations on it and trying to improve on it, that's what I'm happy about, right? Because
Right.
it's never going to be perfect, but as long as they're striving to be better, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. And to be honest, this is not like a rampant problem. This is not like the
Hmm.
culprit of like all of competitive issues and stuff like some people make it seem. In reality, this is only a thing that affects mostly the higher ranks, right? People that want to get to grandmaster, or that want to cross the barrier to master, and use this kind of tricks to kind of um fakely like increase their SR. And you've seen like the horror stories of mercy mains at like grandmaster that can't play anything at more than like diamond or platinum level aside from like that mercy, right?
Hmm.
Or you see them with like 40%, 30% win ratios and still at a grandmaster. And like some people are like, oh, I don't know if this should be the way it should be, right? Like it seems like if you have less than a 50% win ratio, you shouldn't be all the way up here. But I think for
Hmm.
like most ranks, this is not like a blatant problem, but it does help keep things a little more competitive.
Yeah, I think the problem they fixed last time was actually way worse, or at least they attempted to fix. I don't know how effective it was, but the issue where six stacks playing at really odd hours would actually, I mean, they'd stay in queue for a long time, but they'd end up playing against like a group of solo stacks, like two tiers below them. And a bunch of people actually, like a six stack actually got into, with an undefeated rating, got into top 500 last season, just based off of kind of abusing that. And whether they were meaning to abuse it or it was just six guys that all their best time and most convenient time to play was at really early hours in the morning. I don't know. But I think that was a bigger deal, right? Like that kind of made an impact on the leaderboard in a way this, while it'll be nice to fix, it didn't have a huge impact on the leaderboard, I don't think.
Right. And I feel like people will always try to find like how to have an edge on whatever, and like they'll go in great lengths to try to like gain a little bit more SR with a little bit of a less effort. But as long as Blizzard stays on top of it, like you said, it's pretty good. This seems like they are responding to that. So great changes. Hopefully we'll see how those work. But let's get into the new hero changes, because these are really interesting changes. Before we get into the one that you want to talk, let's talk about D.Va first, because D.Va has been probably one of the most, if not the most controversial hero this season. I know that a lot of pro players have expressed some discontent with the defense matrix, and I think that it has caught on. People have learned how to use the defense matrix to a great extent, and it's a very oppressive ability, and they're working in order to reduce the impact of this ability and increase the other ones. She has 3 changes, basically. The first one is Micro Missiles. It's a new ability. It's going to be your E ability, and it basically says, D.Va fires a barrage of small rockets that detonate on impact, dealing damage in a limited radius around each explosion. These can be fired while D.Va is using any other ability or firing her fusion cannons. Any comments here?
And this one, I think it's really interesting, and somebody gave me stats on those missiles, and I don't know that they're confirmed. I don't know that they came from a blue post, but I think what's going to be big is just the sheer numbers here, right? Like how impactful is this, right? Because I was talking to the new team yesterday about it after we got to talking about some of the changes, and it was basically this conversation where she's going to become very different. Like her entire play style is about to shift because of this change and the other ones. But when you think about times on D.Va where you were like contesting a Widowmaker, say, you weren't really killing her. You were just, I'm in your face, I'm DMing, you can't shoot my team, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Like, you have to run away and go find somewhere else to go. And she was always able to do that, but now she might not be able to, right? Because you're going to be way more offensively, you're going to have way more offensive firepower, and it's going to be really fun, I think, to play D.Va. Now, it's going to be way more fun to play D.Va, I think, now. Whether it's better or not, we'll have to see, and I think that's even situational too, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like a positive. I mean, she didn't have an ability there, right? So as long as it's balanced, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's fun.
they're giving back an ability. I like that they're giving back some abilities to heroes that don't have an E ability, for example, because it does feel bad to only have a couple of abilities with some of those heroes, and that you're so dependent on those abilities too, like D.Va is on the defense matrix. The way I see the missiles is just like a small little burst. Like you said, it makes her a little more offensive. It might actually be able to guarantee her certain kills, like you said, on Widowmakers or flankers, where her cannons sometimes are not enough, right? Like, even if you're a squishy, sometimes you can literally just like run away while she's shooting at you, and she just doesn't have the firepower. Like, sometimes she can ram you with the mech, right? You can fly with the boosters towards them to deal a small amount of damage. I think it's like 50 damage or so, but that's about it. With the missiles, you have like an extra ability to make that little burst. So now you can ram, shoot the missiles all at the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it's probably gonna be around like 100 to 150 damage, somewhere in that range. So it'll at least be powerful enough to, like I said, kill those squishies or like do those finishing blows, or at least make certain heroes retreat and not be able to engage because you're right there. The 2 other changes she's getting is defense matrix. It's now it now drops twice as quickly. So you deplete the meter twice as quickly. You're going to have about half of the uptime on the Matrix. You're going to have to be a little more selective of when you use it. You're not just going to be able to spam it the whole time a little carelessly, but you want to have it up for the moments that count. I don't know how fast this feels. I don't know if it still covers most of the ults like Soldier 76 or Pharah. Have you had a chance to play around with the new Matrix?
I haven't yet, no, but I can tell you, generally speaking, the Pharah's probably going to kill you, especially considering you're almost never at full DM,
Right.
Full DM charge when the ultimate's abilities start firing. So you're almost definitely going to die to the Pharah now. Though if you it should give you time to get close enough to her that maybe you can get her to kill herself. Because you still have your huge, your big HP pool, so you'll be able to take some damage. But and the Soldier, I don't think you're going to be able to run that out completely. Now, if you kind of feather it a little bit, face tank some damage, get some heals, like you're still going to be able to do a good job countering those abilities, but you're not going to completely shut them down with your right click anymore.
And you still have the potential of clutching it out and eating out a, Graviton or Diva ult. I mean, not Diva. It would be nice if you could eat that ult. A Mayo ult or Hanzo ult. You can still do those things. But like I said, you just have to be more selective and a little more aware of when you use the Matrix than you are now. The last one is fusion cannons can now be fired while flying. So this is not confirmed, but they're testing it so far. That's what they said. But now, as you're using your boosters, you can shoot your regular fire, and you can also shoot your missiles. So basically, you're super mobile, and while you're using your boosters, you're gonna deal quite a bit of damage because you can now shoot as you're running towards the person, then ram him over, then explosive missiles, and you can keep shooting while you're doing all of this, since the shooting is independent of all of it now. So yeah, basically we were joking on the payload yesterday. I hosted or I guested on the show, and we were saying, do you just pretty much tape your left click down and basically never stop using it? Because
can't waste ammo.
Yeah, you have infinite ammo. It slows you down still while you're walking, but now you can use it with boosters. So technically, there's almost no reason to ever stop shooting with Diva now.
Yeah, there's really no downside to this, but there is actually a super relevant hidden downside, and everybody will get over it very quickly. But the first day, every Diva is going to struggle with this, and that's that I don't know a single Diva player that doesn't shoot their weapon to stop their boosters. Like, everybody
You're
fires
right
to
about
stop.
that. You're right about that. I do stop Diva by firing. Huh.
Yeah, so now you can't do that anymore, which will be really interesting for a couple days until everybody realizes they can hit shift again to stop. But that's going to be really, really strange for a lot of people, myself included. So just something to kind of keep in your head as you play it on PTR. Try to get used to that right away. Learn the habit, because it's going to take you a little bit. So the sooner you start practicing that, the better.
Another way you can stop it is with melee, and I know that a lot of pros like stopping it with melee because it gives you the ram plus melee is like a little bit of a extra boost. And now you can probably do ram him over with the back, then melee and cannons, and do a big chunk while you're also firing.
Well, at the top level, and even if you're just a fan of min-maxing because you come from World of Warcraft like I do, it's very possible, given the spread of the weapons and the way that gun works, that you'd actually be decreasing your DPS to stop firing because of just how effective the fusion cannons are at a close range like that. So if you're talking about like a combination of ram into melee into shooting, it might actually be better. So we're gonna have to do some theory crafting, I think, or some number crunching.
We're gonna have to do some science here.
Yeah, this is the perfect place for it. So. But yeah, so I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I think that overall the hero is going to change very drastically. And I think for starters, she's going to disappear from the tournament scene, at least for a little while. She's right now used because of Defense Matrix and because of Defense Matrix alone. So the only line that's relevant here to the pro players in the top level of the scene is defensive matrix is half as good. And I think that's going to be enough to completely shift her out of the meta. But if you're a solo queuer and you're maybe not in GM, so you're anywhere below that, Masters, Diamond, she might be very, very strong. And I think there's a really good chance she might be one of the best heroes you can play. Just from a solo queuing perspective, think of the old Roadhog, the impact you were to have, because he was that bruiser tank, right? He was able to take a bunch of damage, so your teammates, it kind of bridge the gap a little bit from your healers' mistakes that they were going to make, because nobody's perfect, right? You're making mistakes too, so are they. But your high HP pool and your second life really help to make up for that. But now you're also going to very possibly deal enough damage to almost solo carry, right? So this could end up being a really great change for ladder, even if I do think it's going to destroy things for Druids.
Yeah. I would say she has a little more offensive capabilities than Winston right now, and she has about the same ability, right? She can get about the same places that the monkey can, but she's a little more aggressive, and defense matrix is still quite powerful if you use it at the right times. You can mitigate a lot of damage, and more often than not, it'll be up at least a little bit. So if you know how to use it, it'll still be pretty strong. But talking about drastic changes, let's go on to our next hero, a almost complete rework of one of the most iconic heroes in Overwatch, something that a lot of people didn't think Blizzard was capable of, but Mercy has been almost completely overhauled. Let's start with the biggest change, and I'm sure that the one that a lot of people are very worried, but I am very hopeful, and that is Resurrect. Resurrect is now a single target ability. Instead of like a multiplayer ability that rests a bunch of people, you can only rest one person. It's gonna be bound to your E ability. It's no longer your ultimate. It's gonna have a 30-second cooldown, and the radius is reduced to 5 meters. So you have to be pretty much adjacent to the target. It's now gonna be in a cooldown, and is your E ability. No longer grants invulnerability either. It's just straight up Resurrect. What do you think, man?
It's really scary, right? And it's going to make people really, really nervous. But everybody calm down, because I think me and Andres are in agreement here. This is a really, really positive change for this ability. Because right now, okay, yeah, you can't res 5 people anymore. That's unfortunate because of the huge impact that could have. But right now, honestly, when you look at the tournament scene, and this is less true the farther you get down in the ladder, so it is a scaling thing. The ability to resurrect 5 people was not super valuable in Masters and GM gameplay. Okay, there was a huge downtime in between where everybody's standing still and glowing bright gold, right? And they're just super obvious. So you're able to line up your headshots for the moment that they can be shot, and you just ended up killing 2 or 3 of them right away, right after they got brought back up. So huge reses have been gone for a while now. Everything's been tempo res based, and really that's, you're pocketing your Pharah anyways, right? So your Pharah uses their ultimate, and because they're super vulnerable when they do, they die, because that's usually how it goes. So, and then you just instantly bring them right back up, so they get their ultimate, now they're back in the fight and good to go. And that's really what res has been, right? Or maybe you're healing your Pharah and you swing over, you get your Winston back up and you get out. Maybe 2 people, right? If you were lucky, you'd get 2. And now you don't have to worry about that anymore. So you just go get your 1 player. And I would estimate it took me about 90 seconds on Mercy to get my ultimate if I was getting a lot of healing done and my team was taking a substantial amount of damage. So I just view this as 300% uptime on my res, which, it's not quite that, right? Because I just yesterday I played a map where I got 2 double reses in a row, right? And I'm not going to get quite that, but I do think on the overall I would have resed more people throughout that map had I had it in this form. And so I think it's going to be really interesting and a lot of fun to play with her overall. But generally speaking, I think this is an improved form of Resurrect, and it was already an ultimate ability and one of the betters, and it's not that anymore even. So
I completely agree with you. I think that this is a buff to the ability in a lot of ways. Like you said, in pro play and in high ladder play, the ability is already being used as a tempo play, right? You're using it after your opponents use up an ultimate to take out a target, for example, like a McCree gets a Deadeye on your Pharah, for example, and you know you're gonna need that Pharah for the fight, or your tank, your main tank gets taken out, or a couple of guys get taken out a little bit too fast, you bring him back up, or like you said, maybe one of your teammates sacrifices himself. He does an ultimate, but maybe takes 2 or 3 people down. You can just resurrect him right back up, and you're still ahead in or on the lead in numbers and like and then tempo basically. Your team is in the offensive at those points, so that is usually the best use of the resurrect. And sometimes, very rarely, at those levels of play, you get the quintuple resurrect that clutches you the game. But he has a lot of undesired consequences. Like it makes the playstyle for Mercy really unintuitive. Like for a moment in the match, you have to completely abandon your team, go hide, and your team has to like adapt to that, right? Like it encourages people to be like die on point, die on point. And I feel like the phrase die on point should never be uttered in this game. I think that you should always try to contest the point for as long as possible. But because of the way that the ultimate worked, it encouraged you to try to die all at the same time. So even if you still had a chance to kill a couple of people and you were not necessarily in danger, you were almost encouraged to put yourself in danger so that you could get like that res back up and bait maybe those ultimates and stuff like that. So I don't know, it was just very unintuitive, and I think that this way is gonna encourage the actual right way to play the ability.
Yeah, definitely, and it always, of course, I'm going to continue to do this because it's the only way my brain works. But even watching tournaments, it created this really awkward moments where like you're looking at the play of the game, and it's a Mercy standing in the pub on King's Row, and nobody's around, and she's just staring at the wall, and she's staring at the wall, and then she hits Q, and the play's over, and you're like, okay. So it even looked bad from a viewer's perspective, and at a lot of times. So I'm glad that's going away, but I don't think it was necessarily bad for the game, but it did create some really easy opportunities for both Mercy players and their team to just be playing terribly by doing what makes sense. So, I think it's okay to have abilities that in order to get the most out of them, it needs to be a little counterintuitive. But this was one, and especially on this hero, like with how popular she is and how defining she is to the game. Like she's not quite Tracer, but she's pretty close up there. Like she's right there with like Mei and Diva, I think, for iconic heroes in the game. So it's important to have time she gets on camera and events and tournaments and things like that to be compelling and fun to watch. So I think it's overall a very good improvement.
For sure. And there's more, right? There's we haven't stopped here. We haven't reached probably the best part of the overhaul. Now she's going to have a completely new ultimate called Valkyrie. Valkyrie unleashes the full powers of Mercy's Valkyrie suit, enhancing her weapons and abilities for 20 seconds. A full 20 seconds. I don't think there's an ability in this game that lasts this long, right? This is probably the longest lasting.
Sounds right to me. I don't think there's any way Nano Boost is 20 seconds.
No, Nano Boost is like, I don't know, like 10 seconds.
10, I would say in the 10 range. Yeah. So 10 to 12, I think would be the most I would give Nano Boost. So yeah, it's quite a long time.
It's a pretty long time. Maybe the bongo, Orisa's bongo, is up there, but this one just sounds like it's probably the longest. But here's what Valkyrie State gives you. First of all, Caduceus Staff, Mercy's healing and damage boost beams now affect all allies near the targeted teammate, and the staff's effective range has been extended. So not only can you reach further with your beams, it now chains to several of your team. I don't know if it can chain to everyone as long as they're in range, or if it's like a limited number of them. I haven't really seen it in action, but my guess is that as long as your team is close together, you're basically boosting all of them, kind of like Orisa does, giving a huge boost in damage to everyone.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in action either, but just reading the description, I mean, the damage boost beams now affect all allies near targeted teammates. So it doesn't just say like the closest couple, you know what I mean? It seems like it's definitely going to be all of them. And were you ever there? I don't know. We did this meme comp back in beta, and you very well might have been there, where we had one Pharah and 5 Mercies, and everybody flew at the Pharah and damage boosted her, and it didn't provide additional boost. It just looked like this huge hive mind spider web flying through the sky. And I just think it's going to be really, really funny to see that, right? If you can pull that off, where you've just got the beam going to everybody, and I really want to know what it's going to look like. I think it's going to look awesome.
That's awesome.
I think it's going to be awesome. I think everything about these changes for Mercy, everybody should be super excited about.
It would be great to get like a super dive composition, get like a Pharah, Doomfist, Genji, you, maybe like a Diva, a Monkey. Everybody jump at the same time and you boost it. So it just looks like this huge ball of damage just falling up on you. Oh, that has to be so cool. But here's the other thing too. Caduceus Blaster, her gun, is granted infinite ammo while simultaneously increasing damage and fire rate. And we already got official word from Scott Mercer that he definitely thinks that damage is too high right now. And I saw a clip before the show of, I can't remember the pro player, but he was playing Mercy. He gets damage boosted by Ana, and he goes in Valkyrie state and is just flying on top of everyone and like two-shotting people. Like not even headshots. It was just like two-shot squishies, destroy tanks. I was like, what is happening over here? How is Mercy just erasing everyone like this? So it's definitely gonna get toned down. We don't even know if the damage increase is gonna be kept, but maybe they'll just like increase it by just a little bit. But I think this is what really makes Battle Mercy a very real thing.
Yeah, I think by the time they're done, I really want to see that clip because it just sounds like the greatest thing ever. And if they don't touch it and leave it exactly where it is, I will actually be very excited to play Mercy. If I get to suddenly go into this DPS mode, it would just be the greatest thing ever. But I think they're going to bring it back down to the point where with Mercy, the thing to always be doing is to have the staff out and to be healing or damage boosting. And the only exception is if you get stuck in a one-on-one because your team's not listening to you when you're yelling about the tracer in your face. That's probably going to be the only acceptable time to pull out the blaster. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and that I get to go into Battle Mercy in a serious setting, because that's, I mean, the literal dream, I think, for everybody, right? To get the 6-man kill on Mercy, like that would just be the greatest.
For sure, for sure. But wait, there is more. I feel like an infomercial over here because
we're not even halfway down.
We're not even halfway through the list of boosts that you get with Valkyrie. Like, oh, those two are already like super awesome. But check this out. Guardian Angel increased range and movement speed. So now you can go from person to person not only further, but at a higher speed. So your mobility is super increased. Not to mention that hover, your ability that normally just slowly floats you down of the sky, now grants you the ability to freely fly at increased speed. So basically, you gain full flying capabilities, even better than Pharah. Like this is Pharah's dream over here. I'm pretty sure that every Pharah is super jealous of Mercy right now. It's like, what the hell? You can fly everywhere.
Yeah, so it's going to basically be like full speed swimming in most video games, is my understanding of it. Just through the sky though. Like as long as you're holding space, you're just zipping around wherever you want to go. And that to me is the coolest and most fun part about this, right? Is it's going to give you a type of movement that's unique and very specific to the hero. I even just love Jeff in the developer video. I mean, she's got these wings, right? So let's use them. It's just everything about all these changes is a lot of fun. And this one in particular, I think, will be the one that just has you feeling incredible about it. Like you're going to hit Q, and once you figure out how to fly, it's probably going to be super weird the first 2 times you hit Q. But once you learn to fly around, I think that's by far going to be the coolest part about the hero now.
For sure.
The ability to go wherever and do wherever. They might have to rebalance maps so that she can't get to weird unintended places for after her ultimate's done.
Oh, for sure. there's two more that I haven't mentioned. The first one is, and I think this is more of the defensive part of the kit, but basically, Resurrect, the cooldown is instantly reset when you go into Valkyrie. And also, the cooldown is reduced 10 seconds to 10 seconds, down from 30. So technically, you can resurrect somebody, go into Valkyrie, resurrect another person, and then after 10 seconds, resurrect a third person. So it not only makes you a huge threat and huge mobility, you can basically kill people by yourself. You can also bring back a lot of your teammates. So Battle Mercy, like to the max, 300%. And most important of all, your regeneration, your passive regeneration that Mercy has is no longer interrupted when you take damage. So you're basically self-healing yourself the entire time, non-stop. Any damage that you take, you gain it right back. So I don't know, man. This is like the Avatar state right now for Mercy. Like she is full power right here.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that people have been upset that there's been any negative reaction to this, because I look at it as somebody that reluctantly was willing to play Mercy sometimes as long as it let me play Zen in 6-stack environments. You know, to now I'm like almost excited to try it. Right, like it'll probably wear off but her play style is going to change a little bit, but I don't know if it's enough to make me really enjoy it. Still probably too much staring at clouds for my liking. But yeah, I there's no negative. There's no downside to everything we listed here. The one thing we did say there was a downside to was not being able to resurrect multiple people. And we've already talked about how you weren't ever going above 2 or 3 people anyways, right? Like that wasn't going to work. It was just going to get the other team a bunch more ultimates as they re-killed your whole team, you know, about 90% of the time you tried it. But even that's not really there, because all you have to do to resurrect 2 people is hit Q. And then you get a third one for free 10 seconds later. I don't know. Everything about these changes is great, and Mercy is going to be back in the meta in a big way. I don't think she's going to be shackled, at least not as heavily shackled to Pharah's, but it could just be that Pharah and Mercy are both going to be close to permanent fixtures in the next meta.
Yeah, I imagine that after the changes, Fire Mercy is gonna be very, very popular, especially because there's just so much firepower in between this combo route here. And what I'm excited the most is that the playstyle, the repercussion of these changes is that Mercy is gonna become a very active hero, right? Like there's no longer a reason for you to go hide anywhere. Basically, you're always constantly wanna be swooping around. You like the best mercies get really good at going across the battlefield and dodging a lot of damage, making it really hard for their opponents to chase them down. And finally, when they're able to chase them down, they just fly to the other side of the map, and then your opponents are kind of out of position. So she's a very mobile hero by default, and it's good that this playstyle now is gonna encourage you to be doing that pretty much 100% of the time. Try and get your ultimate as fast as possible, and once you get your ultimate, you actually get a chance to clutch it out, right? Like you can stop being just a main healer and you become a DPS that is also have incredible like team abilities, right? You can choose to just go into Valkyrie state and try to kill the enemy if they're on you and just like clutch it out like that, or get away flying, reposition yourself, get into a target that needs to be killed. You could choose to make that decision, or as a team, you can choose to be like, all right, team, I'm gonna go into Valkyrie state. I'm gonna boost everyone. You guys are gonna hit like a truck, and we're gonna hold down this point or push this payload. But nevertheless, it's a very active playstyle, both the ultimate and like the time in between your ultimate. You're constantly gonna be doing things. There's no reason for you to hide anymore. I think that is the coolest part about these changes.
Yeah, and some of them we already kind of know the impact, right? Like the boost on the entire team, right, or everybody nearby the targeted teammate for the right click, the damage boost, that's 50%, right? That's what Discord Orb used to be for the whole team, but it was
Yeah.
so good because it gave it to the whole team that they lowered it to 30. So I mean, we already know that those numbers are really, really good. You're gonna out AoE heal Lucio, and you're gonna out damage boost, Zen and probably Anna's nano boost, right? Like I think it's gonna be a higher impact to right click a teammate if everybody's grouped up than it would be to nano boost one person. So I don't know. She's going to be like the best healer at every aspect of support play for at least 20 seconds, every so often. So it's a lot of fun.
It almost feels like Blizzard wanted to not annoy a lot of people. They were like, hey, listen, if we take away Resurrect, we need to like give him everything back. And like they surely did. I'm pretty sure that this ability is going to need some tweaking because it's very powerful. And right now in the PTR, it's definitely overpowered. Like there is no question about it. Like when you go into this ability, you can solo the entire team by yourself. And I don't think it should go that far, definitely. But I do like that your battle capabilities get so good, and you can clutch it out.
Yep.
Alrighty, the last change that I wanted to go over, and this one is sounds really minor, but I think it's a really good change for all Reinhardts out there. With your barrier field, holding your primary fire while your shield is active now allows you to rotate your camera. So basically, you can hold your shield on one position, and you can now rotate your camera without changing your actual position. You can keep holding the shield in a specific direction, and now you can look to the sides behind you, so you can know where your team is, or you can look at where that flanker is coming. You can look at different angles while still blocking where the bulk of the damage is coming. And I think this is a great quality of life change. It's gonna give Reinhardt a little more of a strategic depth, and it's gonna allow them to do their job without straining their necks a little bit too much. What do you think, dude?
I think it's great in the sense that there's no negative to it for anybody, right? Like this, it doesn't make the hero better. It doesn't make it more annoying to play against. So there's nobody out there upset about it. And there's this very small subset of people that are just ecstatic about it, like doing cartwheels. And that's not even Reinhardt players. That's shot calling Reinhardt players. Now they're going to have so much more situational awareness, so much more ability to be beneficial and helpful in comms and team chat, that they're just super ecstatic. And I know people are thinking there's not a lot of Reinhardt shot callers out there, but there's at least one. Christopher from Envision and Team UK from the World Cup is a shot caller. So I can guarantee there's at least one person out there very excited about this.
No, I definitely agree. And like you said, this is one of those changes that is not a straight buff or nerf to the hero, but it enhances the quality of play of the hero. Mm-hmm. And it allows players who are really aware or who really know what they're doing with the game to be able to soak in more information while still, doing what they want to do with the game. So for players who want to take the time to really use this kind of thing is great. It makes you a better player, and it's one of those changes that I think by a small margin it increases the skill ceiling of the hero.
Definitely.
All right, let's go into the last few changes. We have a couple of user interface changes. These are not too big, but I think it's really nice for information as well, talking about being able to be aware and gathering information. The first one is the skull icons that indicate where teammates are killed throughout the map have been replaced with hero portraits. So instead of you just like you have those icons that you can see throughout the map when a hero dies, even through walls, where it's just a skull and you know that your teammate's dead over there, but you don't necessarily know which teammate is. Now you're gonna be able to see the portrait, giving you a little more, environmental information. If you're Mercy, for example, this is gonna be very useful because now you can definitely know who you're swooping to give that 30-second resurrect to. And I'm sure for other heroes, it's gonna be very useful too.
I had a situation last night in a scrim. where two of my teammates died at once, and one of them died to a Widowmaker, and that it's very helpful to know where you can't stand on a hero like Zenyatta, because there's a Widowmaker around. So it gives you a lot of information, and information is huge, and it's key. It helps with communications, everything like that. So another great quality of life change. And I think you're probably right. I don't know if you said it outright, but I took it from what you said, and that was probably prompted by the Mercy change to the Resurrect to give her more information. And overall, I think it's going to be really good.
Right. And like Sombra says, he who holds the information holds the power. Also applies to Overwatch. The last one is a quality of life change for spectators. Third-person camera view will now frame the action automatically when spectating or waiting to respawn. This change actually helps me. Sometimes when I'm hosting the game night, I'd like to stream all of the matches. But sometimes since the game night goes on for so long, I do like to step away, go grab something to eat, and maybe use the restroom. And when I come back, maybe the round has ended and the camera just stays like in the middle of nowhere. It's not even like the spawn or anything. It's just like this random location that like serves no purpose and is not following anybody. So sometimes I get this like long pieces of footage where I'm trying to maybe like film some of the people playing and stuff where the camera is just standing still. So I like this change. It makes lazy me easier to stream all my games.
Yeah, and I'm a VOD recorder and a coach for a couple different teams, and it'll definitely be very helpful as third-person camera view gives you information that watching from a solo perspective doesn't. And also, this has big potential for spectating esports, watching tournaments online. Anything to help the viewer experience for Twitch viewers is a very, very positive thing for the game overall.
Absolutely. All right, couple of things before we close out the show. Remember that the end of competitive season 5 will conclude on August 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific. Don't forget that if you're trying to get those last competitive points, or I know some people were trying to complete their placement matches like last week and stuff. So if you're one of those, you still got like 3 more days to do it. So get on that. Also, the beginning of competitive season 6 will begin on Thursday, August 31st at 5 p.m. Pacific. So really quick afterwards, Monday it ends, Thursday it restarts. So we only get like 2 or 3 days of downtime for you to relax, maybe play some quick matches, try a couple different things. And also keep in mind that the summer games are coming to an end that same Monday, the 28th. There's no official time, but if anything is a reminder is that probably the end of the season will also be the end of the summer games. So just keep that in mind. If you haven't finished getting those sweet loot boxes and skins, I know that I still have to get the Reaper and the Junkrat. I'm going to be trying to get those on the weekend before it ends. Remember to get them and don't miss out. All right, man. Do you want to let people know where they can find you on your show?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know, I'm a co-host of the High Noon podcast. We talk about everything esports related. You've probably gleaned that from all my insight and conversation so far today already. But you can find us on Twitter at High Noon Podcast. We also have a website, highnoonpodcast.com. There's links to mine and the Blevins' individual social media links, as well as those on the show. And also shout outs to you for your Shadow Blevins jab. I loved it, and I'll make sure he knows. Absolutely.
All right, if you want to find the show, you can always find us over at omniclab.com. We have the whole archive of all of our episodes over there, so if you've missed some for Going Deeps and would like to catch up, those are still good, even though we've recorded them a long time ago. They are very, very broadband, and they still apply. Check them out over there. Also, join our Discord if you want to participate in game nights or talk to other members of the community. There's a lot of people constantly talking over there, strategizing, grouping up, and it's also where you get the first-hand announcements. If you want to stay up to date with what's happening on the show, all of the guests that are coming, you can submit questions for the Going Deeps, all of the stuff. That's the place to do it. You can do it over at discord.me/OmnicLab. You can also email the show over at omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. And we are always looking for iTunes reviews. They help the show quite a bit. It helps us stay visible over in the hobbies and entertainment and other gaming podcasts out there. It helps us gain new listeners, and it also warms our hearts. We read all of them. It's a great place to give us feedbacks, things that you like, things that you don't like, and all of that stuff. If you want to personally find me, you can find me over on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find my my music blog over at soundcloud.com/iPlayMusic, IPLAI Music. And sorry, I'm going way too long, and usually Rob helps with a lot of this, so I feel like I'm just rambling over here. So let's close out the show. Thank you so much for coming, Deathblow. It was a pleasure talking to you as always, and best of luck with High Noon over there.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I definitely owed you one. You did the exact same thing for me when Blevins was MIA one day. So it's always fun. It's not my first time, but it's my first time in a while. So it's always fun to stop back in and say hello to everybody.
Absolutely, man. You're always welcome. All right. And like Rob would say, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. Catch you guys later.
I have nothing more to